everybody? Welcome to the Pyroscope community call. Um, yeah, I think this is the second one since we all merged together, and I know a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions about what our roadmap is and how we plan on merging the two projects together, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we've been doing a lot of work towards that. And so on the agenda for today, we have, just talking about our progress since the last time that we all met. And basically, since we have merged together, both Flare and Pyroscope, just, I guess, quickly looking through the open PRs in case anybody is here who has any questions about those. And then, yeah, and then we'll kind of go through our roadmap items over the next 3 to 4 months. Again, I'll repaste the agenda in the chat for those who joined after I pasted it last time. If you have anything else that you want to add, yeah, we would definitely be interested to hear from you all, those agenda items as well. But yeah, I guess first to start off, I would say one of the biggest things that we did since the last meeting was making it so that you could run the old Pyroscope UI with Flare. I know some people have tried it. That was thanks to Eduardo largely. Yeah, Eduardo, do you want to, I guess, kind of, give us a quick little demo of it?
Yeah. Oh boy, have to give permissions here.
All right, you need a minute. All right.
Yeah,
While you do that, yeah, it's all good. While you do that, I'll explain the other stuff. So yeah, let me share my screen as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to. It's the first time I think Rustin is in the meeting, and I wanted to give a big thanks for all the contribution that he's been doing so far. So I don't know if you can use your mic, Rustin. But again, thank you so much for working with us.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm very interested in this project, so I hope I can continue to contribute to this project.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there are a bunch of pull requests from Rustin in Pyroscope-RS, and we can't merge them because there's like no CLA assistant or something. Like they were waiting like forever. We should add CLA assistant and merge them.
All right.
Well, thanks for letting us know. We'll take a look. Yeah, I guess is it Roostin? Is that how you pronounce it? Rustin? Roostin?
Rustin.
Rustin. Okay, cool. Yeah. As Cyril said, thanks. We appreciate it. Are you using Pyroscope in your day-to-day, or are you like at work, or are you just using this on the side outside of work?
Right now, I'm working for like a cloud database company. So we use Pyroscope and Loki and Grafana in our daily work. So I just use the Pyroscope every day to just indicate some problems from our products. So yeah, I also very interested in how to implement like a continuous profiling software. So I just wanna do some contribution and to try to learn something. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah. And yeah, I see other familiar names in here too. Yeah, appreciate all the feedback, everyone, that we've gotten so far. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about our overall plan and how we would love to get help from you all in a second. But Eduardo, you're back. Do you want to show the UI? Cool. Yeah, and so I know there were some changes. Oh, you're on mute, by the way, Eduardo. But I know there were some changes as well as to how how to run this. I guess so. For anyone who's using Flare currently, how do they run this?
Exactly. Don't have to do anything. Just run the Flare binary, however you're running Kubernetes or just manually, and it should be available automatically under the /UI path. Sorry, /UI, and that should be it. Have the whole UI here. It works just like Pyroscope, the OG Pyroscope, the old one, except that we had to do certain modifications, right? There's no like application names. There's some mismatch, but we managed to get it working. One thing is there's no self-profiling, so if you're running for the first time, you don't have any ingested data, you're not gonna see anything. So be aware of that. So we have the single view, comparison view, and diff. Here I'm running the same, like pretty much the same app, so there's no difference. Yeah, there's a slight difference here, but yeah, that's pretty much those are pretty much exactly the same as the ones from Pyroscope, the OG one.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Eduardo. Yeah. So has anyone here, I guess, anyone else tried using it? I guess, is anyone using Flare who has used the new UI yet?
I did.
Of course you did. Seeing if anybody else had. But yeah, I guess so if you are using Flare, yeah, we would love to yeah, I mean, we'd love to hear if that's useful for you, or if there's anything that oh, can you guys hear me? Okay, it said my network was slow. If it's useful for you, if there's anything that we could do that would be more helpful there. Another thing that we added since we last met, let me share my screen again. Oops, that's wrong. All right. Another thing we added since we last met was ability to basically making the Flare data source compatible with both Pyroscope and Flare backends. And so that was also something that basically our goals between the two projects are to make it so that in the current state, whether you're using Pyroscope or you're using Flare, that the front ends basically look the same, and then that the the way that you send data works the same. So we added a bunch of ability for all of the various SDKs that were available for Pyroscope to send data to either Flare or Pyroscope successfully, and then that just leaves sort of the middle layer of the actual database itself, which is what we are currently working on merging long term, that we eventually basically will use in order to yeah, what we will eventually merge and make one project. But when we do that, we want to make sure that there's as little sort of disruption to anyone who's using Pyroscope or Flare. And in order to do that, we're trying to kind of make everything equal in the meantime, at least as far as users are concerned, as far as I can see, and then kind of go from there. I just saw a message of someone trying to join the meeting. Hopefully they were able to get in. So yeah, as far as our roadmap for the next 3 months, like, I'm happy to just kind of walk through some of these, or I guess maybe I will call on others to walk through some of these, so you guys don't have to listen to me talk the whole time. But yeah, so there's sort of like a couple of different categories. As I said, there's the UI itself, there's the SDKs, which is how we're sending the data. There's performance stuff, and then there's just the actual task of merging the open source repos. So we'll start with the UI stuff. Basically, as you just saw, Eduardo had made it so that you're able to run the Pyroscope UI with Flare. And now the next step is that we want people to be able to do that same thing inside of the Grafana UI as well. And so one of the things that Eduardo is also working on is this app plugin which will basically give you that same Pyroscope UI, except inside of Flare. Yeah, I don't know. Anything you want to add there, Eduardo?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's like a little preview of that, of what it looks like. So, you'd have all of your typical tabs, and then you'd have the ability to, select Pyroscope and then do all of the stuff that's available in the UI there. And so we're hoping to have that in the next month or so. But yeah, that's what Eduardo's currently working on. Dima, you want to talk about SDKs?
Yeah, sure. So there are a few notable items on the list. So one thing we want to do pretty soon is implement Delta diff on the Go client side. I guess more specifically, I think you're talking about the Grafana agent, right?
I meant, all this stuff.
Yeah. So basically, the issue there is that in Go, memory profiles are cumulative, and when we want to look at allocation profiles, we kind of have to take two and then subtract one from the other to get kind of like the absolute numbers of how much stuff was allocated during the 10 or 15 second period of time. And you can do that in various places. And what we found was that the closer you do it to the client, the the more efficiently you can do that, because you don't have to serialize it, deserialize it a bunch of times. And so we're gonna make that improvement in Grafana agent pretty soon, so that you'll be able to do that kind of earlier and send smaller profiles to the actual Flare server. The other thing we want to invest in is add pull mode for all the integrations that we have. Currently, we only have pull mode implemented in Go, Java, Node, maybe a couple of other ones that I'm missing. But we want to add it everywhere so that you can take advantage of, again, Grafana agent. And we think that this will kind of simplify the integration and allow people to kind of integrate faster. The other thing we want to invest in is auto instrumentation with eBPF. We think there's a lot of potential there. There's a blog post that we wrote a while ago that kind of goes into more detail on kind of pros and cons of eBPF approach. And we already have an eBPF what do you call it? eBPF agent, but we want to kind of improve it and add support for interpreted languages and other things of that nature.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, that's our SDK's plan.
For the eBPF, is this is for the Grafana agent?
Yeah, that's another thing. We want to add. There's already work happening on adding the eBPF agent that we used to have in Pyroscope to Grafana agent, again, to kind of simplify deployment and streamline all of that.
Yeah. So particularly if anybody here also has tried our eBPF agent, we'd definitely be interested to hear your feedback on, whether it's the installation of it or the profiles you get back. Would definitely be interested to hear that. Yeah. All right. Performance. I don't know if we have to go too deep into this stuff, but I don't know. Maybe Cyril, you want to talk about performance plans a little bit?
Yeah, I can. I'm gonna have to leave right after, but I can
Okay.
talk about it.
Or Christian, if you have to leave.
Yeah. So I think Dima, you're gonna work on that, from what I understand. But the idea is right now we basically have we don't split cores or we don't parallelize them. So effectively that means that we run just on a single core on the query side, and it's not very great for scaling or for performance. So we're gonna introduce parallelization using the same technique as the other project that we have, like Tempo, Loki, and Mimir. Also, obviously, include like caching and retrying. So caching means it's going to be nice because it's pretty easy to cache those response. They are very much cumulative, so that should be also be a nice improvement. Christian is going to be looking this quarter at introducing querying from the object storage directly from the query. So that goes ends with the parallelization work that I was talking about. Right now, if you're not aware, querying from older period of time is done via the ingester, so they keep basically blocks on disk, although they flush to object storage. But after a certain period of time, once your disk is full, they're going to be removed. So that'll allow us to have like longer retention, or being able to query back further back in time. I think Anton is the last one who's going to be looking at the symbols. I think right now the symbols was like a very quick implementation, but now that we have, I think, a better view of how all of this works, we want to build a solid foundation for the symbols, and we plan to probably build many other features based on the symbols in the future. So for us, I think it's important to have the symbols database working nicely. And that's it. Yeah.
Cool. Anybody have any questions on any of that? If not, yeah. And then obviously, once we've done those, we plan to merge the repos together. Again, we'll give more details on like what the actual sort of path will look like for everyone as users. But again, we're going to try to minimize any disruptions there. But yeah, I guess so. There's some other agenda items that people have added. I want to make sure we get to those. So Jack Kelly, if you want to jump in, it looked like you have some questions about Pyroscope breaking things.
Yeah, so I created a issue on the GitHub repo. The issue I have is I'm trying to update Tracy. Tracy from Aqua uses Pyroscope for a bunch of performance testing and stuff. I need to do a Go mod vendor to make the dependencies available to me for my build. But because of session_Linux, it doesn't work. So yeah, this is the bit in Go where it checks for files to make sure they exist when you do Go embed.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, that file doesn't exist in the repository. It only exists if you clone the repo and run the make file. So
Nice.
yeah, that's the problem there. You can't do Go mod vendor if you use Pyroscope as a dependency.
Well,
I can talk about that.
Go for it.
So my understanding is that you're using Pyroscope repo to instrument your application, basically, right? Not for something
I believe
else.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's using the agent.
So we a long time ago, so we used to have both client and the server in one repo, and that led to exactly these kinds of issues. So at some point we created a separate repo that just has the client code, and so you can instead import that, and the API is very similar or almost the same, so you shouldn't have to make a lot of changes, and that will definitely kind of resolve this issue. And just in general, clean up your project because you won't have to download as many dependencies.
Okay.
Just sent a
Also-
link to the docs, and it has like the name for the new package. It's pyroscope-io/client.
Can you put that in the notes too, Dima?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And that has eVPF spy in there.
Oh.
Because yeah, that's the specific agent that we need.
That makes it a little bit different. If you do need eBPF spy, then yeah, we probably need to go a different route. I don't know off the top of my head how to deal with this Go mod vendor issue. But I suppose we can do something about it so that you could still get an eBPF spy.
I guess should we do this? Can we do the same thing we did with Go and putting it somewhere else?
I'm afraid for that particular one, no, because like the issue is related to eBPF spy. So if we move it somewhere else, you're still gonna have the issue. I think it's I don't know.
So I had a brief scan through what profile BPF does. It might just be a case of using like CoRe or whatever it's called for BPF would be better. Then I think it's like hard linking to some kind of VM Linux headed file thing. I don't know, maybe this is one thing to chat with the Tracy guys about, because they know a bunch about writing Go to link to eBPF stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Anatoly, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I know you spend a lot of time, looking at that code.
So the embedded file is the compiled eBPF program, which is missing because right now we build it as part of make step, like make, build, BPF something. And maybe when we switch from libBPF to the other library, I forgot how it's called, like the Cilium or something like this. This issue might go away because they use like a different approach. They use Go generate annotations which invoke compiler at to generate those files, like Go files, and compile the BPF program. So maybe I'm not sure, but maybe when you go more to do the vendoring, maybe it will be invoked as well. But I'm not sure.
So is that so? You mentioned this work on switching to a different library. Is that already happening? And like, is that code gonna go into Pyroscope repo?
Yeah, I have a branch, but it's not finished yet. It's working, but it's not finished, and I could test it tomorrow probably. One other thing we could do is just to commit the compiled eBPF programs, so they will be available for vendoring. And those compiled binaries, they are like not readable. They are really binaries, but they should be very small because it's like the program is very small, and I don't know. This is just one of solutions.
Okay. So it sounds like we can do a little work exploring the possible solutions there, and then yeah, we'll probably have to get back to you on that, Jack.
Okay, awesome. One other option might be to use tags. So you could have like a tag for, okay, I have the thing to embed, and then you have the kind of normal non-tagged version, which would just have like a fake file that it embeds instead, or whatever's necessary to get it working. But that was one of the other ideas.
The eBPF agent is under eBPF spy tag. You're talking about Go tags, right?
Yeah, Go tags. Yeah.
But they are already there.
Okay.
I guess probably having an empty file would already be better because everything else works apart from when you want to try eBPF. And then I guess once you have the Go mod vendor, you can also do a Go generate. So if we don't want to compile, don't want to commit the binary itself.
Yeah, might work as well. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry you ran into that. We'll definitely look into it. Thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks.
Next one on here, not sure who put it, but UI multi-tenancy issue.
Yeah, I added. I think
Mhm.
Manuel is here. He asked for this. So this new UI that we added doesn't take multi-tenancy into account by any
Mhm.
means. So I don't even know how to start here.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I went into the channel mostly asking about like how this theme will look up in the future. Like so far we have been using Flirt with a couple of tenants in Grafana, and I was really looking forward to try this new UI, but discovered that it didn't support the multi-tenancy at all. So I managed to hack it around and get it to work with just one single tenant, but I was more wondering what's the like actual plan for this, if this will be added as part of the new UI or it will be just something that will not be considered.
Yeah. So I mean, I can definitely say for the as far as like the general plan, like we definitely let me stop sharing. We definitely want to make it so that you can use this UI regardless of if you're doing single tenant or multi-tenant. Initially, I guess we were more focusing on the single tenant use case, and also we just haven't had time to build out all the rest of it. But we definitely plan to keep this long term after everything is merged. We still want to be able to have this UI, and we definitely still want to be able to have multi-tenancy. And so we definitely will plan to support both eventually. How we get there in the meantime is probably a better question for Christian Dima.
Yes, like I guess one of the things we usually don't have is like a list tenants. So we don't really have a state of what tenants we have. So basically, once we receive a query, we create the tenant, and then it will just be empty in the same way that when we ingest. So I definitely think we could handle that better, but I think it will be something, I think, in the sense of the front end realizing maybe I'm getting a 401 because like it's in the multi-tenant mode, and then allowing you to kind of set that string tenant ID, and you have to know what tenant ID is, and like maybe it remembers the last tenant IDs. I don't know. That is the only kind of solution I could think of without keeping kind of stateful track of tenants. I'm also not on the front end side, so I think that might be maybe more work than I think it is. But I just wonder, how would that sound to you? Would that solve your problem, kind of?
So the problem, well, the way we're working around it today in Grafana, it's basically creating multiple data sources, like each one of them with like different header port, like the corresponding tenant. So it's the same thing you're saying, like, there is not a list, there's not a way to get programmatically the list of tenants. Like for now, that's totally fine with us. It's just that we have a way to work around that, defining statically the tenants that we want people to like be able to query for. Now, if we were to look into this new UI, which is for sure definitely more exciting than what's currently available in Grafana, it's just not possible right now.
Yes, like I think I definitely would imagine that we should be able to deliver the same thing with Grafana that the UI. Like right now we start with very different feature sets, but I think I definitely would like to kind of have them as similar as possible. So I definitely think like once you like run Grafana, you should use the Grafana experience, and that should give you more, the same at least, if not more than what you get from the 4100/UI one. And I think that 4100 should be just a quick way to get you maybe a profile if you don't run Grafana. So that would be kind of how I would see the future to line out. But yeah, totally fair point. Right now, that's not the status quo in Grafana.
Just a quick question. So what difference? What's the difference in a request for like a different tenant? Is it just that the like scope org ID header?
Yeah, so it's basically just a scope org ID header. So it's usually meant to kind of that. Yeah, if you want to use those tenants, you need to set the tenant and have some kind of auth proxy that you control to have authentication, and basically it's just that header that we need to differentiate. So like that's why I think it maybe is something that could be like configured in the front end for your session, and when you like as a start, I guess, because I guess Manuel had to hack the front end code to get that header in. Or
Yeah, that's basically what I did. I'm like, honestly, I'm not particularly happy with the approach that we took for Grafana, because like we have to statically define the tenants as a data source, as a new data source in Grafana. Like it will be lovely to have a way to define like a variable at like a dashboard variable, like where users could enter whatever they want and just get that sent as part of the request to the query fronters or something like that. But that's not possible today with Grafana or with Flare or the new UI. But it's
so let me see if I understand. So the only thing you need like is an input box where you specify the org ID, and that's sent as a header to Flare.
that will be lovely to have, yes. That's not the way it works right now in Grafana, because the proxying I think is done by the Grafana server component itself. But yeah, like if we could have basically like a variable at the top where you just specify the tenant name and that gets in the value for that header, that should just work fine.
Okay, I'll think about having like a more elegant solution, but it will be something like this probably.
Yeah, I think for the standalone UI or the outside of the Grafana UI, the one that Eduardo started off this meeting showing an example of, like that, it seems like it should be pretty straightforward to add, at least what you just mentioned there. Like Eduardo said, maybe there's a more elegant long-term solution, but I definitely think that we could add it there. And then, yeah, I mean, like I said, like that's effectively what we want to ultimately have, take that and put it in the Grafana UI and still be able to do, the same things. And so basically, theoretically, anything we do in this like standalone UI, we can also make available to you, in the next like month or so when we add that into the Grafana UI as like the, standalone, or as the, Pyroscope app plugin inside of Grafana. And, and so hopefully it shouldn't be, assuming we can figure out exactly, how to do that it shouldn't be too long that you'd have to wait to be able to do it in either the standalone UI or within Grafana. It would be slightly different than a dashboard, I guess, but you would still be able to get to the information you want, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Well, I think that's all of the agenda items. I don't know. Yeah, if anybody, obviously we have, some time, and we'd love to hear if anybody has any feedback or any questions. Whether that's about, you running Pyroscope yourself, or the future of Pyroscope or Flare or the merge or anything. Would love to help answer those. If not, then, we'll see you in Slack and talk to you at the next meeting. Going. All right, we got Sebastian. What's up, Sebastian?
Yeah, hello. Just a quick question. Do you have an estimated date for the first release?
Yes. When you say first release, you mean like when everything's like officially merged and stable and everything?
Yep.
We are aiming for September 15th to release Pyroscope 1.0, which will be the official like merged, everything works there. And basically, I guess what we're doing in the meantime between now and then is we actually do have a merged version, which we are currently sort of running and basically running it internally with all of the internal Grafana stuff for all of the other databases for the cloud. And the reason we're doing it there first is that we want to make sure that that everything works and works smoothly, so that when we do bring that into the open source, that that it's a smooth transition. And so basically, if you're using Grafana Cloud, then and Cloud Profiles, which we will be releasing on exactly a month from today, on June 9th, then you'll basically be getting what will eventually be in the open source on September 15th, and you'll be getting it as it progresses over time. But yeah, in the meantime, we're kind of doing all of these things like we've discussed today to make sure that that is ready for users when we officially merge everything.
Okay, great.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, yeah, again, thanks everybody for coming, and appreciate all of the feedback you have given us in Slack or here, and please continue to do so. And yeah, we'll talk to you next meeting. All right. Bye, everyone.